You know how you first meet someone, or perhaps after you've been around them a little while, how you get a conception of them in your head? How you make certain assumptions, and then that forms how you see that person from then on. And it takes something more than just another encounter for that image of that person to change within your head, or that those assumptions to start changing or start going away. It's that way with gods and spirits as well. When we first start working with a god or a spirit, a loa, or a land white, or one of the dead, we have an idea of what we need, and that's why we enter the relationship. And we have an idea of what we want and what our path moving forward will be. Same way with friendships, even, and with living human beings. I think that from the very beginning, I always felt like Ma Kali was just pure light. I thought that the aspects of herself, her always being described as dark, was just all encompassing, in that she accepts everything. And that's still true. I also thought that the darkness meant mystery. It didn't mean something else. It just meant mystery. Like there was a blind spot in most people's understanding that they couldn't get past, or there's certain conceptions that they had to retire in order to truly see Ma Kali or truly work with her. And the vision that she's given me of her is a vision of her with a planet in her lap and just light coming out from her, and she's just light being composed of light. And only recently have I realized that there is darkness to Ma Kali as well. And I realized that a lot of my conceptions of what dark and light was still caught up in duality. And it still is. And I thought that my mind and my brain was above that. That I wasn't a dualistic thinker. But then recently I realized that my understanding of darkness isn't as complex as I thought it was. That my understanding of darkness is incomplete. Not only from reading a book recently about Ma Kali, Adya Kali, and her 1,000 names. There's a whole bunch of different forms of Kali. They are all facets of one being, just like she is the womb that all things come from and all things must return from. She's also the womb of transformation. She encompasses creation, preservation, and destruction. She encompasses what Brahma does, what Vishnu does, what Shiva does. And only recently did I realize that I always thought her ferocity was just directed at asuras or demonic beings. And that's true. But there's another side to her ferocity and another side to her darkness that I didn't quite understand yet. I'm still understanding it. I haven't gotten to the full realization yet, but I feel the threads of realization leading me to something that will be a bigger epiphany. I realize that the emotional ferocity, it's an actual state that she can go into, and it's an actual energetic state that we need to evolve. It's destructive, but it's destructive of comfortable energies within us that we need to break through to move on. And while we're stuck in our little, the segment of energy that we're used to, the destruction that Ma Kali offers, it's also destruction of that comfort that we are trapped in within our energy, along our spine, for instance. And I feel like there's a side to her ferocity when you open yourself up to her, to that side of her, she's going to give you challenges and tests that have a possibility of breaking you. Maybe, breaking you, like you either evolve or die. And I don't think she forces that onto you. I think that there's still that loving mother there that doesn't force it onto you. But when you need it, or when you're gonna die, if you don't have it, if you're gonna die anyway and you don't have this lesson, and maybe if you learn from the lesson, or meet the test well and move beyond this phase, maybe it'll get you out of those confines that if you would have stayed in, you would have died anyway. But if you fail the test, or you mess up, or you don't realize what you need to realize, then you also might die. I don't mean she's going to kill you. I'm loosely talking about like suicidal ideation, or insanity, or just going down a really wrong path because you become disillusioned. There's equivalencies in all of those. The tests and the obstacles that I'm encountering deal a lot with certain conceptions of what I think that I want in my life, and where I'm at, and where I want to be, and those edges, those boundaries, those walls have been coming down for a few months now. It hasn't been pleasant, I'm not gonna lie, and it's been really tough. And only now am I really seeing Ma Kali's hand in it, to be honest. But yeah, a lot of the root of a lot of the very practical, down to earth. This is what I suffer. One of the things that I suffer is that feeling of loneliness, of not knowing, being able to hang out with. Maybe I know from a distance, but not being able to like really be friends with in person people like myself. People with spiritual interests. They don't have to be exactly like me. They don't even have to be on the same path at all. But just people like myself. I don't really talk about it much in my videos because sometimes when I've talked about it before, but sometimes when I get too close to home, one, I feel like it's too specific and doesn't help people. And two, I guess there's that part of myself that doesn't want to be that vulnerable. But I mean, I'm reaching a point where I don't care anymore. But yeah, so so the core of my problems is a lack of community, or a lack of being around people with some kind of spiritual path that we can talk about, that's not just religion, or that's not just really basic, or that's not just really fluffy magic or something like that, which is it's all fine, but I mean, somebody who's really on a spiritual path, if that makes sense. And of course, I hope to find a woman that's on a spiritual path that I can really connect with on that level, because then I imagine it won't fail like my other relationships. But my conceptions are still very rigid for moving forward, and the path that is rigid is bound to break. So I'm bringing down the walls of my conceptions, and I think Ma Kali has been helping me do that, or forcing me to do it, to be honest, because I'm going to die if I don't. If I fail, at least there's a chance through her help, or through this particular kind of help that she can give, and these very hard tests and obstacles and trials, at least there's a chance that I can get beyond it. The darkness, she accepts those who are really depressed, those who suffer from mental illness, and all the crazy stuff that we do. She accepts that too. There's a lot of mercy in Ma Kali, and she's willing to divvy out a whole bunch, but she's also willing to let us experience our karma, but in a way that will help us move forward. That's not just a punishment. At least that's what I think. I think that she's throwing a really hard lesson at me, because this is like kind of one of those evolve or die moments. But she also, her ferocity and darkness, she accepts everything for what it is and soaks it in. As she bit off that one demon's head, I forget his name, but as she bit off that one demon's head, and she was able to process all that blood and keep it from becoming more demons and spilling on the ground and becoming more demons. I think his name, it wasn't Chandra, I don't think, anyway. She was able to process it, and her ability to process that darkness, that ferocity, and then she became very fierce, but she focused it at those who were harming humanity and working against our interests. She took that ferocity from that demon and she turned it. She processed it. She was the only one who could. And I think that I'm processing now. And I hope that, like I can turn all of this pain turn all this energy towards my future and my path, and not just keeping it in the processing phase, but actually being able to direct it in everywhere possible to where my future will manifest to greater and greater degrees, instead of being stuck, to where I can manifest and become greater in greater and greater degrees instead of being stuck. So I'm in the processing phase, and I'm hoping that the direction phase, that will come soon. And that I can make it come soon, because with a lot of these things, we have to make something happen. There's a whole lot of talk about letting the universe, just waiting for the universe to do something. But I feel like when we wait, it's better to do something and do something wrong than to just wait for it to happen. There should be action along the path, no matter what path that we walk. But as we move forward, we will see how my path and how I move forward. But I just thought I would be candid and just talk a little bit about Ma Kali and where I'm at. At any rate, thank you very much for watching. Please hit that thumbs up down there. It really helps out the channel. And feel free to leave a comment, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. At any rate, look at yourselves. Try to process what you have within yourself and direct it. Thank you very much, and I hope all of you have a wonderful day. Transformation.